don't see. Yeenoghu laughs in endless bleed. Blood on earth, blood and rain. Across dead worlds they hunt again. From shattered stars to gates of bone. Children of hatred, ripped flesh and broken bone. Gnashing teeth, burning eyes, feast on screams, devour lives. Children of hunger, run, run, run. The gnolls have come, the gnolls have come. Skulls for altar, skin for banner. Gods are dead on Triflail's hammer. Drums in night, claws in soul. Worship the wound, tear the hole. Sacrifice flesh, sacrifice bone. Where gnolls roam, no hope is known. Listen to void, hear masters cry. Yeenoghu calls and all things die. Gnashing teeth, burning eyes, feast on screams, devour lives. Children of hunger, run, run, run. The gnolls have come, the gnolls have come. Whips on backs, blood in wake. Demon-born hounds, no soul to forsake. Cursed are worlds where claws scrape. Bodies broken, no escape.
Gnolls stand as looming, lean silhouettes of engineered brutality. Towering 7 to 8 feet, their greenish-grey skin is only partially hidden beneath patchy fur and a bristling mane running from head to spine. Their digitigrade legs and bushy tails grant them the speed of a predator born to hunt, while their gaunt forms belie the relentless endurance of creatures able to survive on carrion and corpses alike. They're most active at night, possess dark vision, and have a keen sense of smell which aids them in hunting and tracking. You're about to learn the full story of their origin, sourced from a wide array of Dungeons & Dragons resources that are usually overlooked, going way back to the early 1970s. So, settle back, grab yourself a tasty beverage, we're about to get deeply nerdy. First, a huge thank you to Glenn of the Mr. Welch channel, whose expertise on Mystara's lore greatly enriched this research. For those wanting an even deeper dive into the Nithian Empire and their monstrous creations, check out his video linked in the description below. We begin their story on the world at the center of the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse, Mystara, the known world, home setting of D&D Basic, the longest running edition and most complete version of D&D ever created. This is where the Gnolls came from, where they were unleashed on the rest of the multiverse, eventually. In contrast to many other D&D settings where Gnolls are inextricably linked to the demon lord Yeenoghu and are often portrayed as his direct spawn, Mystara Gnolls are an artificial species. Their creation is attributed to the corrupted Nithian Empire. The Nithian Empire quickly became the first significant post-Blackmoor human empire on Mystara. At its height, it had a population of around 8 million and controlled a vast territory. Its theme was distinctly ancient Egyptian, with a capital city named Menkaure, located on the banks of the river Nithia, where they had sophisticated arts, culture, and monumental architecture, including stone-sheathed pyramids with gravity-nullifying runes. Initially, the Nithians revered a pantheon of immortals, who are basically analogues of ancient Egyptian gods, and the solar god Huron at the center of their state religion. Their society was structured as a divine monarchy led by a pharaoh, supported by a bureaucratic scribal class, hereditary flame magi, skilled in elemental fire spells, and an army built on enslaved populations. Their economy flourished through grain surpluses, copper mining, fireglass exports, and a thriving slave trade. further enhanced by magic-based irrigation systems. But things went seriously wrong when Pharaoh Khonsetep III fell under the insidious influence of Thanatos, the immortal of entropy, and the jackal demon Ranivorus, leading to the legalization of death cults and defiler magic. The Nithians began to conduct twisted experiments, delving into biomancy and necroalchemy, which turned many of the benevolent immortals against them. Just to be clear here, Thanatos pulled the entire empire into entropy and necromantic corruption, while Ranivorus specifically targeted their religious cults, introducing jackal and hyena symbology that ultimately contributed to the Gnolls' design. Over time, Ranivorus' role had been muddled and conflated with Yeenoghu in modern lore, but here he was a distinct actor in Mystaran history. Central to the Nithian Empire's descent into depravity was the Pit of Corruption. This artifact location was a 3-leveled chasm dug beneath the Great Pyramid of Khonsetep in Menkara's necropolis. It served as the central laboratory for entropic biomancy, the upper galleries containing embalming vats for sinister uses. The middle temple level contained the obsidian spire, a powerful focus stone for dark rituals, and the deepest level contained biomancy crucibles guarded by flaming iron golems, lich scribes, and their monstrous creations. The pit's primary function was to enable Nithian necro-alchemists to fuse various beings, attempting to mimic and pervert the creation powers of immortals. Side projects included the creation of Black Moon Gnoll troops, the lich binding of nobles, and the development of defiler seed stones that drain surrounding life force to fuel rituals. The creation of gnolls was a gruesome process. Around 12,000 gnomes and 800 swamp trolls were captured from the Great Bay marshes. Anne Dubois was one of the writers of Champions of Mystara, and she suggests that the gnomes used their magic under duress to enchant hyenas with troll blood, which allowed them to survive the horrific and permanent alterations being inflicted on them by the flesh crafters. They also enhanced certain traits, such as the gnoll's instinct to follow the strongest leader, to create the perfect bestial shock troops for the Nithians. Unlike all the other beast hybrids they created, the gnolls are the only ones listed as humanoids and not lumped in with the other beastmen. Whether gnome blood itself was incorporated or merely their magical talent, it remains ambiguous, a mystery buried along with the Pit of Corruption itself. The Nithians were erased, and the Pit of Corruption is now long gone, so perhaps we will never know for sure. One thing of note, because the Nithians were erased, with all memory of them existing being wiped from mortal minds, though their ruins still remain with some populations of Nithian descendants still around, with no idea who or where they came from. The gnolls lost all knowledge of who created them or why, so it does explain their tendency to look around for some other power to follow, as that need was directly engineered into them by the Nithian flesh warpers. The liberation of gnolls bears some similarity to the liberation of the Gith from the Mind Flayers. Gazetta Issue 7, The Northern Reaches, and Gazetta 10, The Orcs of Thar, are the best sourcebooks for Mystaran gnolls. To avoid confusion, again let me point out, Ranivorus, the jackal demon and lesser-known entity, is sometimes conflated with Yeenoghu due to overlapping lore. He played a corrupting role in Mystaran history. Unlike Yeenoghu, who dominates the modern Gnoll mythos, Ranivorus was a separate figure involved in the fall of the Nithians. The original Mystaran gnolls were followers of Ranivorus, their liberator, but a gnomish immortal named Garel Glitterlode took the opportunity to exploit gnolls' instinct to follow and obey the strongest. He subverted enough of them to create a population of them, which is the origin of the underground nation of Greyhawk, located beneath the Elysian Desert. Greyhawk is a unique destination. Here, gnolls and elves have gradually merged into a unified society, founded on mutual understanding and shared governance. This integrated society is far from just living next door to each other. They foster youths from one species by parents of the other, specifically to cultivate a culture of understanding and prevent interracial strife. Greyhawk is a perfect example from the lore that gnolls are not inherently evil, just innately chaotic and mostly evil. But it is a bit more complex than just boiling it down to alignments. You really need to understand how hyenas operate, which we will by the end of this video. Beyond Greyhawk, other gnoll societies reflect their environments and adopted models. In desert regions like Ilarum and Arit, gnolls form nomadic dervish-style packs, trading goods like dates, slaves, and copper weapons for essential water rights. In the northern regions, small bands of northern gnolls continue to raid coasts in areas like Ostland and Haldan, employing a more traditional predatory lifestyle. In the chaotic Broken Lands, gnolls are part of Orcus Rex's humanoid kingdom in South Gnollistan, with tribes often participating in surface wars led by figures like Thar. In places like Glantry, you're more likely to find the Flins, a high caste subbreed. Flins are often seen as honor guards for shamans and represent a more civilized or refined aspect of gnoll society. The core lore within most gnoll societies is pack first, emphasizing communal survival and loyalty. Status is typically earned through successful hunts, with leaders bearing titles like pack leaders or war chiefs known as horde masters. Their harsh, cackling speech is a hallmark, though many also learn common languages like Goblin or Thiathian for trade and interaction. The Greyhawkian gnolls, influenced by their elven allies, honour Ilsindul and Ordana alongside a more pacifist aspect of Ranivorus known as She Who Laughed First. A small minority also retained vestiges of reverence for ancient Nithian deities. Gnolls have left an indelible mark on the history of Mystara. Their early rampaging following the collapse of the Nithian Empire saw them stream west across Brunn, devastating lands and contributing to the downfall of cultures such as the Traldar. This historical animosity is a deeply ingrained aspect of relations between gnolls and certain other races, particularly the Traldarians and Rockholm dwarves and gnomes, who hold deep ancestral grudges. From Mystara, the gnolls spread out across many worlds and planes and appear in various D&D type role-playing games such as Pathfinder, which we'll get to in a moment. When a creature in a fantasy is based on a real-world animal, it's always a good idea to seek inspiration from nature, as this approach allows D&D storytellers to imbue them with more intricate motives, territories, and intertribal politics, moving far beyond simple monstrous antagonists. The hyena family are called Hyenidae. It's composed of 4 distinct species. The most numerous are the Spotted Hyenas, then the Striped Hyenas, then the Brown Hyenas, and the Aardwolf, which is quite different than the others in one hugely important aspect, as you will learn. Provides a perfect, very logical excuse for a far less evil variant of the gnoll. The Spotted Hyena, or Crucuta crucuta, is the largest and most widely distributed of the hyena species, predominantly found across sub-Saharan Africa. They're not merely scavengers, they actively hunt 60 to 95% of their food. Their exceptional hunting prowess makes them formidable predators, capable of taking down prey much larger than themselves. This trait can be directly translated into the spotted gnoll archetype, portraying them as highly efficient and brutal hunters, prioritizing direct combat and coordinated attacks. Spotted hyena are renowned for their highly complex matrilineal social structure, living in large clans that can number up to 130 individuals. Females are notably larger, more aggressive and socially dominant than males, inheriting their rank directly from their mothers. This matriarchal hierarchy is the cornerstone for spotted gnolls, suggesting clans led by powerful female alpha gnolls, with social intrigue and inherited status playing crucial roles. Their communication is rich with diverse vocalizations, including distinctive whoop-whoop calls and unsettling laughter-like sounds. These sounds could be adapted into a cackling intimidation racial trait for gnolls, demoralizing foes, or whooping calls for long-distance communication and coordination during raids. Spotted hyenas possess incredibly powerful jaws capable of crushing bones, leading to characteristically white feces. Their spotted gnoll counterparts could thus have a bone-gnawing bite attack or a racial bonus to consuming raw or tough foods. One of the most striking biological features of the female spotted hyena is her pseudopenis, through which she mates and gives birth. This unique anatomy makes birth an extremely difficult and often dangerous process, particularly for first-time mothers. For gnolls, this could manifest as a significant biological cost to their masculinized physiology, perhaps leading to higher aggression in surviving firstborns or unique rituals surrounding birth and matriarchal succession. Pups are born precoital with eyes open and a full set of teeth, reflecting an innate ferocity that could be a racial trait for spotted gnoll offspring. The striped hyena is typically more solitary and less vocal than its spotted cousin, occurring at lowest densities across a wide geographic range from North Africa to India. As a racial archetype, striped gnolls would be nomadic loners or operate in small, loose family units. They would excel in stealth and resourcefulness, making them ideal scouts, skirmishers, or rogues in a D&D campaign. Their diet is more omnivorous, encompassing carrion, insects, small vertebrates, and even fruits and vegetables. This dietary flexibility could translate into a scavenger's resilience, a trait allowing them to survive on meager resources, or making them adept at finding edible materials in harsh environments. They would prefer to avoid direct confrontation, relying on cunning and opportunistic tactics rather than brute force, potentially being known as tricksters or pests in agricultural regions. The brown hyena, Hyena brunea, though found primarily in southern Africa's arid and coastal deserts, shares some elusive traits with the striped variant. They form small, loosely organized groups, but individuals often forage alone. Brown gnolls would be the epitome of resilience, capable of covering vast distances in search of sustenance. Their highly developed sense of smell, used for scent marking and tracking, could translate into a keen scent racial trait, offering bonuses to tracking hidden enemies or detecting traps. These gnolls would be predominantly scavengers, specializing on finding and consuming carrion, and less inclined to hunt large prey themselves. Their communal rearing of cubs, though less hierarchical than spotted hyenas, suggests a cooperative dynamic within their small groups, focused on shared responsibilities and mutual aid rather than strict dominance. And now we get to the Aardwolf, the perfect candidate for a play of character type of gnoll. The Aardwolf, Proteles cristata, stands out significantly from its hyena relatives. It's the smallest and most distinctive, with a highly specialized diet consisting almost exclusively of harvester termites. This species offers a truly unique foundation for Aard gnolls, diverging radically from the traditionally carnivorous gnoll trope. Aard gnolls would be slender, perhaps fox-like humanoids with elongated snouts and an innate ability to locate and consume insects. Their termite tongue or tremor sense against burrowing insects could be key racial features. Unlike other gnolls, they would be largely non-aggressive unless provoked, focusing on sustainable relationships with insect colonies rather than widespread destruction. This specialization could lead to unique cultural practices, such as insect husbandry or the development of alchemical acids derived from insect venoms, offering them unique, non-combative roles in a D&D setting, perhaps as druids, alchemists, or specialized foragers. Aardwolves are primarily solitary or live in monogamous pairs, making Aard gnolls the least social of the gnoll variants. They would inhabit burrows or simple underground dwellings, specifically in dry grasslands and savannas where termites are abundant. This suggests reclusive and secretive communities, often perhaps interacting with other gnoll types primarily through trade or specialized resources or information. In a nutshell, the spotted gnolls fill frontline brute roles. The striped and brown gnolls serve as skirmishers and scouts, while Aard gnolls become rare foragers, druids, or insect wranglers, each adapted for specialized roles within larger gnoll cultures, or as distinct factions entirely. Putting this concept into action, a realm dominated by gnolls could be culturally and racially diverse before we even get to the complexities of their religious politics. as we shall soon see. Drawing from real-world hyena interactions, spotted-based Gnoll clans might view others as inferior scavengers, maintaining a strict social hierarchy. Striped and brown gnolls could serve as intermediaries or traders due to their nomadic and resourceful nature, and Aardgnoll types might trade unique resources such as insects or alchemical resins for protection or information, thereby fostering complex intertribal politics. Up until 5th edition, Dungeons & Dragons had a more nuanced representation of gnolls in the official sourcebooks. This took a dramatic turn, and for reasons unexplained, Wizards of the Coast pivoted to a much simpler depiction of gnolls in 5th edition, as mindless abyssal killing machines rather than as nuanced beastfolk with rich cultural origins. This decision discarded decades of prior lore, favouring a more streamlined demonic narrative. Despite 5th edition's general rule, the setting of Eberron provided a notable and important exception. Keith Baker, the creator of Eberron, introduced the Zneer Pact gnolls in exploring Eberron. These gnolls are biologically similar to their counterparts in other settings, but possess a crucial historical difference in that they broke free from Yeenoghu's influence. The Zneer Pact, located in the region of Droam, publicly renounced demon worship, instead forming mercenary contracts. This narrative tweak allowed for a morally diverse Gnoll population, providing a full player character lineage with distinct traits like dark vision, a bite attack, and a modified rampage bonus action. For Dungeon Masters, the Zneer Pact model is an easy framework to apply to any setting, as you can swap Yeenoghu's demonic dominance for ancestral traditions or pragmatic alliances, and suddenly gnolls can serve as mercenaries, guides, or even unlikely heroes in your Forgotten Realms or Homebrew campaign. Meanwhile, Paizo, in their Pathfinder system and world setting of Golarion, also took an entirely different track and presented a much more lore-accurate and nuanced Gnoll species. Pathfinder 2nd edition introduced them as Kolo within the Mwangi Expanse setting. Kolo are not demonic spawn, but are playable ancestry with their own rich culture, social structures, and moral agency. They are pragmatic, semi-nomadic hunters and traders who value community efficiency over individual glory, and notably are not tied to Yeenoghu. In Pathfinder, gnolls believe they were given birth by Lamashtu, a former demon lord now ascended to being an evil goddess of monstrous creatures. They have a mutually tolerated relationship with minotaurs, who also claim to be children of Lamashtu. In Pathfinder 2nd edition, the Kolo refer to Lamashtu as Old Mother. She's involved only as the very last resort and otherwise begged to stay away. Most of the Kolo practice ancestor worship, but also revere a small pantheon. Calistria and Shaelin are revered as elder and younger sisters, the twin goddesses of power and beauty, whilst Nethys is revered as the brother, the patron of the Bone Keepers. Kolo society is matriarchal, with clans ruled by female councils, and often trade with neighbouring peoples. While they might be brutal in combat, their pragmatism means honour is secondary to survival and efficiency. This framework allows for a wide range of character concepts, from wilderness guides and trackers to urban scholars or even arcane casters. The Kolo are divided into 4 subraces that clearly resemble the 4 species of hyenas. So there are the Great Gnolls, representing the larger spotted hyenas, the stripy-coloured Sweet Breath Gnolls based on striped hyenas, and the brown and long-furred Witch Gnolls based on brown hyenas, and the Ant Gnolls, which are small in size and are based on the Aardwolf. Each of them has interesting traits. There's also the Cave Kolo, the Dog Kolo, and Winter Kolo, who are defined by those traits as well. Back to Dungeons & Dragons, it's time to delve into the branch of lore that stems from advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So, their original pantheon, their relationship with other creatures and races, and the takeover by the demon lord Yeenoghu. This is where we delve into the really brutal, no-hold-barred stuff that makes them a race of monsters. By the time the advanced D&D Monster Manual was released in 1977, the Gnoll's identity was firmly established as a hyena-based beastfolk, and over the years they got a lot of specific types of gnolls, plus companion creatures that they often appeared with. In D&D's 5th edition, the lore solidifies the gnolls' deep, dark connection to the demon lord Yeenoghu, who looked like a hyena long before the first gnolls appeared, and is thought to be the primary reason the gnolls latched onto him as a power to venerate. Their very existence is frequently attributed to his destructive rampages. The most common and chilling origin story involves hyenas feasting on the remains of humanoids slain by Yeenoghu. As these hyenas gorged on the tainted flesh, they became bloated with his demonic essence, grotesquely transforming into full-grown gnolls in a shower of blood and gristle. We see this clearly demonstrated in the game Baldur's Gate 3, and full credit to Larian Studios, that was gross and cool. This ritualistic creation is not limited to Yeenoghu himself. Powerful gnoll shamans, or fangs of Yeenoghu, can replicate this vile process, allowing their packs to swell in number with each successful slaughter. When you consider the difficulty of female spotted gnoll reproduction, this does make a lot of sense. It's understandable that the dominant females would latch onto a form of surrogate reproduction to avoid dying in natural childbirth, and yes, natural reproduction among gnolls is possible. It happens all the time, particularly among gnolls who reject their ties to the demon lord. But this demonic ritual remains a significant and terrifying method of their proliferation, directly linking their savagery to their patron's unending hunger. Some ancient lore hints that Yeenoghu might have discovered and usurped an older demon lord's ritual rather than being the original creator, yet his dominance over the gnolls is undeniable in most game lore these days. They do have an original pantheon, and while not their creator, they did have a patron deity which some of them still venerate. Gorellik roams the more chaotic outer planes, perpetually hunting prey along with a pack of monstrous hyenodon minions. He has no home base and prefers a life of bestial savagery. There was a time that he arose from being a demi-power to full god status after he discovered the infant race of gnolls when his prowling eternal hunt passed by Mystara, and he took instant interest in the species that looked just like him. The gnolls latched onto him as their god, calling him the king of hyenas, and Gorellik taught them how to tame and master various hyena species, including hyenodons as hunters, guards, and occasionally as mounts. There were other gods that made up the gnollish pantheon. Most are now forgotten, but one still remains as part of many gnoll cultures. That is Refnara, who oddly enough appears as a naga-like serpent goddess. The gnolls are typically nocturnal hunters and dwell in caves, ruins, and burnt-out villages during daylight hours. They have a superstition about the full moon and believe that Refnara eats the moon when they worship her and make sacrifices, as evidenced by the moon appearing to be eaten over the course of a month, proving Refnara's power. So they may just call her she who bites the moon, and devotees of her will always use a ceremonial but very functional dagger when making a sacrifice. She's more active in their lives than Gorellik and occasionally sends beams of moonlight to guide gnolls and flins where she wants them to go. Refnara dwells in the plane of Gehenna and hasn't spoken with Gorellik in centuries, but they are not opposed to working together. Because of Gorellik's nomadic nature and the fact he didn't create the gnolls, there is no mythology or phases of the moon to hold them to him as a culturally shared faith. So when Anam and his giant brood appeared, the gnolls started to venerate and serve them. But this was also short-lived, and then Yeenoghu and the gnolls discovered each other, and the rest is history. Yeenoghu offered the dominant females something very tangible and beneficial to them, which was another way of reproducing. As conception and childbirth killed a lot of them, being able to transform hyenas into new gnolls was a huge win, along with demonic power and a wealth of necromantic knowledge. It gave them a real edge, and the gnolls' nature caused them to flock to the cult of Yeenoghu until he was the primary power they worshipped. Yeenoghu spread the gnoll species to many worlds, and for the most part, these gnolls remained loyal to him. But in some cases, notably Xandria and the Duskboar gnolls, they turned away from demon worship and the constant slaughter and mayhem becoming a culture that can actually interact with other cultures for trade and such. It's rare, but it can happen. There are a variety of Gnoll types, thanks to many editions of D&D adding new monster variants over time. 5th edition Gnolls mature quickly. Those born naturally have open eyes and sharp teeth from birth and mature rapidly, reaching adulthood within as little as 5 to 10 years. They can potentially live up to 70 years, but most don't survive past 30 years old thanks to their relentlessly violent lifestyle. The fundamental lore of Gnolls in 5th edition posits that they are not inherently fiends, but rather hyenas corrupted by the abyssal energy channeled through Yeenoghu. This corruption often manifests dramatically, with hyenas transforming into fully grown gnolls after feasting on the remains of victims claimed by Yeenoghu or his chosen champions. This unique form of propagation ensures that a gnoll pack's number can swell rapidly, turning a successful raid into a burgeoning horde. Their mindset is characterized by a stark stimulus-response dynamic, driven by instinctual violence and the ceaseless urge to kill and consume, rather than complex thought or long-term strategy, making them unpredictable and terrifying adversaries. While the basic Gnoll stat block represents the most common encounter, D&D 5th edition, particularly through supplements like Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, introduces a frightening variety of specialized Gnolls, each playing a distinct role in a Gnoll warband. The backbone of any Gnoll force, the standard Gnoll, is a challenge rating half, is a medium humanoid with an armor class of 15 with hide armor and a shield, and 22 hit points. They possess dark vision and communicate in Gnoll. Their signature ability, Rampage, is pivotal to Gnoll combat. If they reduce a creature to 0 hit points with a melee attack, they can move up to half their speed and make a bite attack as a bonus action. This allows them to chain attacks and quickly decimate weakened foes. They primarily use spears and longbows, so even as they close in, they will send a hail of arrows and hurled spears before unleashing their frenzied melee attacks. They are strong and operate as a pack, so they can become overwhelming very quickly. Volo's Guide introduced the Gnoll Hunter, who is a specialist archer, capable of pinning prey with barbed arrows. They are very agile skirmishers in their own right, but not nearly as brutal as the Gnoll Flesh Gnawers, who are fast, climbing shock troops who can unleash multiple melee attacks, including a bonus bite action for taking out more capable victims. A more formidable presence, the Gnoll Pack Lord, is a challenge rating 2. It's a larger, stronger Gnoll that commands smaller troops. They are leaders by right of brutal dominance, often equipped with superior gear. Beyond the standard Gnoll's abilities, the Pack Lord possesses Incite Rampage, which allows another Gnoll with the Rampage trait to make a melee attack as a reaction. This ability transforms their individual aggression into a coordinated, devastating assault, turning a single kill into a cascade of further attacks. To ensure the remains of victims are infused with the abyssal blessing of their demon lord, the fangs of Yeenoghu hang back and then move in to perform their dark rites. Fangs are chosen directly by Yeenoghu, infused with a portion of his abyssal power. They are larger, more potent, with a challenge rating of 4, and will step in as the Pack Lord if another fails. They will keep ready to leap in and target a vulnerable victim and kill them, because when a fang slays a foe, any hyena that consumes the victim's remains can transform into a full-grown gnoll. They act as champions, embodying raw destruction and leading the charge in larger assaults. Flins are an elite form of gnoll, devotees of Yeenoghu. They carry a unique 3-headed flail capable of inflicting blindness, paralysis, or crushing damage, commanding respect through sheer brutality and often associated with a deep abyssal corruption. Other gnolls tend to defer to Flind, and they keep the flail arm strong by frequently whipping any slaves the gnolls keep around, which is a lot. They keep a lot of slaves, who are also food. In previous editions, there is a type of slave so broken and mentally damaged from the constant abuse and depravity that they go quite insane, and actually fight for the gnolls, welcoming death. Where there are Flins and Fangs, you will always find Witherlings. These undead gnolls are skeletal remnants created through dark rituals. While weaker than living gnolls, they serve as expendable minions or guardians within gnoll lairs, bolstering their numbers through necromantic means. Found in Xanathar's Many Monsters web supplement, the Demoniac is an abyssal spellcaster capable of channeling Yeenoghu's hunger through dark magic, providing magical support to gnoll warbands. Gnolls rarely operate in isolation. Their nomadic predatory lifestyle is supported by a diverse array of minion creatures, ranging from their iconic hyena companions to more sinister demonic and undead thralls. Hyenas accompany gnoll packs as scouts, guard animals, hunting companions, and additional threats in combat. The giant hyena and hyenodon are also fairly common, and you'll also find the Shu Suva, an undead hyena demon assigned by Yeenoghu himself to protect high-ranking gnoll pack lords or flins. I hate to use an AI-sounding word here, but it is a testament to Yeenoghu's active interest and support of his chosen gnoll fangs and flins that they have this direct show of their demon lord's power. It serves to make gnolls fanatically loyal to him. His secret to becoming the dominant power in control of gnoll packs. He frequently provides the rituals and power for his chosen to raise undead skeletons, zombies, and witherlings, including powerful skeletal rhinos and elephants, even dinosaurs, which the gnolls use to smash through defenses, transport captured slaves in secure rib cages, no pun intended, and ride as symbols of status in their pack. He will also provide the means of the fangs and flins to summon demons. Abyssal maws are a favourite type, as any meat fed into them is said to be transported directly into the ravenous gullet of Yeenoghu himself. You may also find low-level demons like dretches and goat-headed bulezau that are sent in with the shock troops in larger gnoll incursions. Gnolls will also chain their slaves together and drive them forward as a living flesh shield to demoralize their foes. Any who survive may just be slaughtered anyway, thanks to the gnolls being driven into a killing frenzy. Gnolls are intelligent, yet ruled by instinct. They demand answers rather than ask questions. They keep trophies of their kills. They have no use for cities or crops. Slaves are livestock to them. To gnolls, digging up graves and feasting on corpses is not evil, it's survival. We consider that evil, they do not. Trying to convince them otherwise or thinking you can raise them from pups and remove those tendencies is actually just forcing another cultural identity on them and brainwashing. It leaves them deeply unsatisfied as those survival instincts are still there. You can't pray away the predator or re-educate them. That's actually the evil act common to the so-called civilized colonizing races. Even without the influence of a demon lord, gnoll are engineered to be nomads, raiders, and killers. If you don't like it, kill them first. They will be welcome in the afterlife with the rest of their bloodthirsty ancestors. Gnolls do have close family ties within their own pack, but this does not extend to gnolls of other packs, so they will always fight amongst themselves. But putting the interests and well-being of their own pack first always comes first for gnolls. Gnolls who fight side by side are highly motivated and will not hesitate to sacrifice themselves for the pack. And while fighting is common within the pack, these are simply fights to establish who is more dominant than the other. It is rarely deadly. On the rare instances where an outsider is accepted into the pack, they might face a few rough fights as they're finding their place in the pecking order, but the rest of the pack will be loyal to them for life and stand together beside them against absolutely anything. Sounds nice, but before you go trying to get into the inside of a gnoll pack, there are a lot of downsides. First is the fact that they are extremely lazy. They have no interest in building anything and will steal anything from anyone that they want to. Their treatment of slaves is particularly brutal, and they even have a special social caste of slavers called Tantakurash, which means spirit breakers, that use relentless torture to break the will of their slaves. Those who do not submit are eaten, often in front of other slaves as yet another form of torment. Some slaves are broken to the point that they become Crinchantel, or savage souls, who follow their masters into battle as thralls. Some even retain enough of their wits to act as spies and infiltrators, as evil as their Gnoll masters, preparing a target settlement for the coming of the Gnoll horde. Gnolls trace their pack lineage through the female line. They don't write books. They have an oratory history which is more like stories. They have their own Gnoll language with many variant dialects, but Fangs and Flins also speak the abyssal language of demons. However you want to represent them in your games, I ask only one small thing. If you just want to play a hyena-headed character who really is nothing like a Gnoll, call them something else. Get creative. Make something new. But as we have learned, Gnolls are quite rich in history and culture of their own, with a lot you can draw from to make quite compelling and challenging playable characters, or bloodthirsty evil monsters as well. For those thinking of using them in their campaigns, ask yourself interesting questions, such as how would Gnolls react to lycanthropy spreading through their clans, with Gnoll werewolves or other types of therianthropy? That's an entire topic worth exploring in its own right, perhaps in a future deep dive dedicated to lycanthropic corruption among Gnoll packs and other species like them. How would they interact with a horde of hobgoblins, goblins and bugbears? Would they serve as the minions of a powerful dragon? Plenty to ponder. And if you've played Gnolls with a twist or have ideas about Gnoll cultures in your games, drop a comment or reach out. This conversation is as much about shared storytelling as it is about lore. And with that, please consider subscribing and visiting my Fourthwall site where supporting members keep me making this content. Get exclusive access to extra content, and annual members can also get custom commissioned videos from me. Thank you for listening. My name is AJ Pickett, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.